Good morning and welcome to Sports Shorts Daily on a Monday morning, Cinco de Mayo. A lot of people into all that stuff, including today's co-host Hunter McCann, who we'll get to in just a minute. I'm live and in color from Court Street Cafe in Port Allen. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, red beans and rice for lunch today. Just a couple of minutes over the Mississippi River Bridge. And we're presented by LeBare's Casino and Hotel Baton Rouge, the ESPN Bet Sportsbook, where we'll do radio this coming Saturday. They also have Edge Lounge out there. And so Ronnie Rant's away from the microphone today, so we will be joined by Hunter McCann. Hunter, good morning. How are you?
Morning, TK. Doing pretty well. Had a pretty good eventful weekend.
Right, we got a little
hoping for some good weather tomorrow night. So
technical difficulty here. We'll see if we can get that straightened out.
Can you hear me, TK?
Oh, all right. There we go. Let's see if we get Hunter back in here.
Got me, Tommy?
Hunter, are you there?
Yeah, you got me?
All right. We're having a little chill.
I think we might have lost Tommy. Well, nonetheless, LSU baseball obviously drops 2 of 3 against Texas A&M. And Texas A&M obviously unleashed the bats yesterday, coming up just able to beat LSU in the 8th. There's Tommy.
Hey, well, I think that issue was on my end.
Yeah, I think so. I was watching you dip out of existence. It's just
technology is beautiful and it can be tough. Hunter McCann with us. Ronnie Rant's away from the microphone, expected to be back on Wednesday for Sports Shorts Daily. Hunter, you kind of dove into the LSU baseball thing?
Yeah, I was just starting to set up the scene for what unfolded the last inning and a half, basically, for the Tigers that kind of sealed their fate for the weekend in Aggie land.
Yeah, it really did. There are 3 left-handers for the Aggies. LSU gets 7 runs in 27 innings, and that ain't going to cut it in the SEC. But the SEC's tough, and as Ronnie Rance pointed out in one of our group texts that you and I and he have, this is not the A&M team that was struggling in March. Okay, we knew they were good, although their best player, Lavalette, the center fielder, got a swinging bunt hit in that big 8th inning yesterday. Other than that, he didn't do anything all weekend. So. But this is a good A&M team who's playing better than they did a month ago. But, when you lead by 2 runs going to the 8th inning, you've got to get that win, okay? Because you're going to get beat some days. We know that. But when you have that lead and you got the team that LSU's got, you got to finish that game off. And the Tigers were unable to do that in College Station.
Yeah, and I think I think it was a bad weekend on the mound Sunday for almost all the pitching staff. Now, and I say that because it's not like Casey Evans gave up a ton of runs, but you really needed him to go 4, 5, 6 innings. You only get 3 1/3 out of them, and I think that really hurt because the pitching staff just isn't as deep as you want it to be right now. There's not enough reliable guys right now that you're able to put on the mound to feel like you have a chance to win. And then Zach Cowan, who had looked invincible all year, finally gave up runs in a crucial moment and gave up those 2 runs at the end of the game to be able to kind of, once again, like I said, seal the fate of the Tigers for the weekend. But it's a big bounce back spot. Like you said, this is not the Texas A&M team that we were harping on 2 months ago about how terrible they were. This is the Texas A&M team that everybody expected to see out of the gate opening weekend to start the year. They've finally figured it out. And to your point, even when their best player wasn't performing, they still found a way to beat the number 2 team in the country in LSU, just because the rest of their team is finally coming together. They're going to be very dangerous in the postseason, especially now that they've caught this wave of momentum with only 2 weeks left of regular season play.
Well, they were number 1 preseason. National runner-ups last year, everybody thought, oh, my. And then they just went into a tailspin. It reminds us about how great college baseball is and how fickle it can be. Remember, only a couple of years ago, Ole Miss was, quote-unquote, the last team in the 64-team tournament, going to fire Mike Bianco. They win the national championship. Mississippi State won a national championship and fired their coach last week. So, not just SEC baseball, mainly SEC baseball, but all baseball is so tough. The Southland is a huge battle now with Lamar and Southeastern and people in Texas, Rio Grande Valley. It's just craziness. The Sun Belt, Raging Cajuns get a sweep this weekend. It's baseball at its best. And we, those of us that follow it, you're surprised, but you're not surprised. But
No, yeah.
LSU got 1 out of 3. They have a midweek game scheduled for tomorrow night against Grambling. Weather forecast not good. It's screwing up my golf game tomorrow. Is what the weather's doing, because I wasn't going to go watch LSU and Grambling. Don't know if that'll get played. But the big one is Arkansas, who does not have a midweek game this year. Friday, Saturday, Sunday at the box, and Arkansas is 40-9, 17-7 in league play. Here it is. If LSU can get 2 out of 3 from Arkansas at home this weekend, they, in my opinion, will secure a top 8 national seed.
Yeah, no, I think you're 100% correct. I think 2 out of 3 this weekend seals the job, no matter what you do the following weekend on the road against South Carolina. I think it sets up the opportunity for you to, like you said, host a regional and hopefully host a super regional. But it's going to be a tough task against an Arkansas team that is, I don't think there's a word to describe it. I don't think red hot even justifies how good this Arkansas team has been the last month or so, and how good they've been all year, but especially in the last month. LSU's bats better pick back up in the midweek. Hopefully they play the game against Grambling. I think they need the practice right now. The entire team needs to get back on their mojo before they play Arkansas at home, because it's going to be one of those series where you can have no mistakes if you want to win.
Yeah, Randy asked a question about Cowan relying so heavily on one pitch without throwing it, 95 plus, and that's true, Randy. In the SEC, you got to have many pitches to get people out. You need 3, 4, 5 pitches in the majors to get them out. In college, you need 2 or 3 pitches minimum, and if you have more than that you can command and throw for a strike, your chances of getting people out go way, way up. So, Cowan, known to throw a lot of changeups, a lot of sinkers, whatever you want to call it. Good hitters are going to start laying off and force you to get that ball up, or force you to throw the fastball. And then if they're looking for it, they can run into it. There's no question about that. So, it's part of the beauty of the game. Sometimes the guy pops it up. Sometimes he hits it hard right at somebody. And sometimes, like Lavalette did, or the hit before him, it's a ball that's not hit hard but finds a way to be a base hit on the scorecard. Yep. So I don't think all is lost for LSU. Certainly you don't want to let that 2-run lead go in the 8th inning. You want to get that one and get out of town. It didn't work. Okay, learn from it. Jay Johnson, some people say he overcoached this weekend with all the subs. No, Jay Johnson is doing what he thinks is the best way for his team to win the game. The lefty-lefty thing, the righty-righty thing. Sometimes that could be overcooked, but Jay Johnson is playing the numbers. He's got more data than any of the fans have. He took Arizona to Omaha twice. He won a College World Series at LSU. You got to defer to him and his staff. They make the decision for a reason, okay? The only thing I was confused is Josh Pearson was 3 for 3 with a walk in game 1 and wasn't in the lineup in game 2. Now, he entered the game, but he wasn't in the starting lineup. And, again, that's a matchup thing because of the lefty-lefty thing that Jay Johnson believes in, that lefty-lefty, lefty-righty thing more than some coaches do. But he knows best. He knows what's best for the LSU team. That's what I think we got to look at.
Well, and so I don't think that, you talk about worrying about this LSU team. I don't think that's like the biggest thing to come away from this weekend being like, we should be worried about the team, right? To your point. I think the biggest thing about right now is with 2 weeks left in the regular season before you get to the SEC tournament, you got to lock in that, like you said, the top 8 national seed. The SEC tournament's lagniappe, really, at that point. If you do that, you hope to win it, right? Because the whole point of this last 2 weeks SEC tournament, you got to be able to start building momentum and get yourself hot moving into the postseason, because you don't want to continue this struggle and then get to the postseason and have not kind of figured out or woken the bats or figured out the arms on the mound consistently, because it's just going to set you up to fail. You got to get hot now and continue on through like A&M has done, like how Arkansas has done, to have a chance in the postseason. That's just how college baseball works.
Yeah, I agree with you completely on that. And, and here's the other thing, too. Okay, Greg Sankey and Herb Vincent don't want to hear me say this, but the SEC tournament is not a high priority. Yes, it's a priority. Okay, being a top 8 national seed is a priority for LSU. Now, every team's got their own priority. There are teams that have to, do other things to get into the tournament. But it's be a top 8 national seed. And with that being said, if you can take 2 out of 3 from Arkansas, I think you seal that.
Yeah, and even if you don't, I think you set yourself up in a good position when you still finish off the season against a struggling South Carolina team. You'll get to face Paul Maneri, obviously the former Tigers skipper, and have the opportunity to put them down and still secure it. But I think looking just this weekend ahead, you're absolutely correct. I think is you win 2 of 3, it's done and over with. You're a top 8 national seed, even if somehow you're swept by South Carolina. I think you have completed your job at that point. So the Tigers' future is right in front of them, and it comes down to this weekend.
No question about that. And again, check all the LSU social media stuff about the Grambling contest on Tuesday night. And as I mentioned a little while ago, Arkansas does not have a midweek game. LSU does not have one next week before their Thursday, Friday, Saturday series with South Carolina. However, Grambling, we'll see if that happens or not. And again, the weather forecast is quite shaky for tomorrow afternoon, etc. We'll just have to wait and see on that. Hunter, the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah.
A little muddy event, but a lot of people got their nice clothes messed up. But tell us about the Kentucky Derby.
It was quite fortunate, but unfortunate at the same time. Of course, if you were listening to us on Sports Roots Radio Saturday morning, I was all over journalism, right? I was also all over sovereignty. I had sovereignty to come in second and journalism coming first. I had it flipped. Journalism comes in second, sovereignty comes in first. But if you took best bets at WBRC.com, we did win some money because, obviously we had a place bet on sovereignty, had to finish in the top 2. He wins the Derby. But it was exactly how I thought it would come down, except for, like I said, I thought like sovereignty had done really well in the past of being able to break away in the final stretch and get himself into competition at the top 3 to be able to get first place. That's exactly what he did. I just didn't think he'd be fast enough in the long run to hold off journalism. I think the muddy track screwed up journalism. It was, I think, only the second race he'd run in those type of conditions, and he excelled the first time. And I think, in retrospect, he excelled this time, just not enough to pass back up sovereignty after he exploded. But man, it was just such a good. It came down to the wire. It was really good because, of course, they're all focusing in on the favorite of journalism, and they come around to go to the final stretch, and journalism still kind of sin towards the middle of the pack, and you're just waiting for him to let it go. Like the waiting for the jockey Rispoli to just kind of like let the horse go, and he did. And when he did, he exploded up to the front, and it came to a real quick, like I think it was a half a length finish between sovereignty and journalism. So it was another great Kentucky Derby.
Yeah. Now let me ask you this: I looked several articles. Is sovereignty going to run in the Preakness in 2 weeks?
I haven't
Of course,
seen
the
yet.
Triple Crown's a big thing, and I perused, I skimmed through several articles about that horse winning to see if it was announced that he will, because the Triple Crown's a thing. That horse racing wants that excitement, wants that interest. And remember, a couple of years ago, the horse that won the Derby chose not to run in the Preakness,
right,
which meant that we can't have a shot at the Triple Crown. So I guess that'll come out in the coming days. But I know I was looking at that. Now, Hunter, I didn't bet on the race. I mean, when you gave me the tip on Sports Shorts Radio, ESPN Bet app didn't have horse racing on it for some reason. And then it's got something to do with the contracts. I get all that. But in my couple of group texts with some different friends of mine, I'm all like, get all over journalism. I think journalism's the winner. So, I didn't look too bad because he came in second. But I went with you with your best bets from WBRZ.com.
It was, like I said, it was right there, and I had the right 2 horses. It just had them in backwards order. I mean, it was just that's the great thing about horse racing, though. I mean, it's a bang bang thing, and they were both right there and had the ability to. So, like I said, able to win just a little bit of money having sovereignty like that. Oh, look!
Hey, look what happened with a pink shirt on Cinco de Mayo. Ron Rance. Ron, we just recapped some talk about the Kentucky Derby, but I'm thinking you want to talk LSU baseball. Good morning.
Absolutely. Hey, listen, happy Cinco de Mayo from the land of Mexico, who doesn't celebrate Cinco de Mayo, by the way. Although the gringo resorts will have festivities. But what's up, fellas? How y'all doing this morning?
Good, man.
We're doing good. Got plenty of sun in Baton Rouge, and kind of talking about LSU baseball. Can't let that 2-run lead in the 8th inning get away. Well, you were in on a text about all of that. But in the Kentucky Derby, so we just got going a short time ago. Did you have a chance to see any of the LSU baseball?
I did a little bit over the weekend, and I did keep up with it. Kind of pitch by pitch type thing on on the stats, live stats. But I'll say this, you know, I'm not too devastated by the fact that they lost 2 out of 3 from Texas A&M. I'm not even that surprised. I mean, I thought A&M, who's been playing really well the last month and a half, and you were catching them in a spot where they almost needed to win, you know, to not to win to punch their ticket to the NCAA tournament, but to win to put them back in the national championship conversation, to be one of the top 10 teams in the country. And they won't get there in the polls and all because they had such a bad first 45 days. But clearly they are one of the better teams in the country. And they, for whatever reason, they had a crazy start to their season. But much like Ole Miss did a few years ago when they won the national championship, don't let them get into the tournament because anything's possible. And I think this win for A&M probably did more for them than it did for LSU, hurting the Tigers. LSU's 15-9. They have 5 games left. Realistically, fellas, they should be able to go 4-2, you know, in their last 6 games. And that puts you at 19-11. 19-11 is plenty enough to be a top 8 national seed. Probably 18-12 is plenty enough to be a national seed. So I think they're in a fine spot. And look, at the end of the day, I think all that happened was A&M deserved to win. They did what it took. But LSU had a bad weekend with Cowan, who's been so good. He's been one of the best pitchers in America. He came crashing back down to reality. Those things happen. No one is ever perfect the whole entire season. And that's really, in a nutshell, you know, what happened there. Some good fortune for A&M. They had a swinging bunt there in the 8th, which then they take Ware out. They bring in Cowan, and then he was kind of not good for the second game of the weekend. And you'd like to have seen your starter on Sunday be able to go 5, maybe 4. Instead, he only went 3 1/3, and that hurt because, again, you were a little thin still in that bullpen. And at the end of the day, that's really it. I credit more A&M than I do punish LSU in this situation.
Yeah, I agree with that. You know, but the 7 runs in 27 innings is not going to cut it against a good team. And A&M is a good team now, as you said, and Hunter and I mentioned earlier, much better than they were back in March. I mean, there's no question about that. The Ole Miss story is well documented too. So that's baseball, and it's baseball in the SEC, and many other conferences are having like lots of surprises and shakeups down the stretch too, in the Southland, in the Sun Belt. I mean, there's some stuff going on, but you just got to write it off to being the beauty of baseball.
Yeah, and look, I mean, A&M's a tough place to play, especially first time over there. But like what you got out of Anderson and Ianson was fantastic. I mean, Ianson, my God, I mean, it's one of the better pitching performances we've seen. And Anderson, I mean, think about it. The 2 best pitching performances by LSU came on the road, you know, at Oklahoma and by Anderson and at A&M by Ianson. That bodes well for the postseason because if you can get it done on the road, hostile environment, in Anderson's case, tough circumstances with the weather. It was cold, windy. You're at a foreign atmosphere that LSU's never been in. So, I mean, that bodes well, I think, for the postseason. Now, hopefully, this was a blip on the radar for LSU's 2 All-American relievers. It was just one of those weekends, and I really believe sort of it is. The one thing I will say about Cowan, it gives me a little bit of pause. He hasn't been as great the last couple of weeks, right? You know, the changeups not diving as much. Everything he threw the first 2 months of the season was down in the zone. If he missed down. Is he getting tired? Is the pressure getting to him? When you throw the fastball 89, 90 miles an hour these days, and you live off your changeup, where that is the pitch you will throw every second at any point in time, the margin for error is very, very thin. And so you have to be, you know, pretty good, really good, or that changeup is just a 78, 80 mile an hour meatball.
The other thing is SEC teams, they got their book on and they got the tendencies, and they are telling their hitters, hey, lay off of the ball down, make him get it up, make him get the ball up, or, you know, if he comes fastball, then you just drive it hard the other way. So that could be a little bit of it too. There's probably a lot of layers there, but it's also baseball. And I mean, you're not going to be successful every time you take the mound, every time you step in the batter's box, and every time they hit you a ground ball. It's not going to be perfect 100% of the time.
just really wish we could have got Shores through the 8th, huh? I mean,
Yep.
Monday morning quarterback would have. Hey, at the end of the day, with 2 outs and a runner at third, up 2, they bring in Ware, the lefty, to face a lefty, and obviously it doesn't look like a bad move because it wasn't like their best hitter got a good swing off of Ware. I mean, it was just one of those unfortunate, baseball plays. And then you think you're doing the right thing, up a run with a runner at first, bringing in your one of your top 2 relievers. I mean, how can you fault that, right? If you're going to lose, you'd rather lose with Cowan and Ware. And I think that was the mentality that Jay had. And that goes back to what I said earlier, Tommy, is that this Tiger team needs more options and their coaches need more confidence in the bullpen. If Jay Johnson would have had confidence in Shores, which he should, he would have let him fight through a scenario where the tying run is at the plate in the 8th inning with 2 outs. He would have let him, face that guy. But because of lack of confidence, you go with the lefty. And Ware, you don't have a ton of confidence right now either. I mean, he's still a work in progress. And then because you don't have the confidence, it's just that again, I feel like a broken record because every week we talk about this. The Tigers need 2 more pitchers. They've got 4. They need 2 more pitchers that they can hang their hat on. And unless that happens, we may be talking about this scenario again later in the postseason where, man, they were right there. They were real close. They just came up a little short.
Well, and the other thing, it goes back to your coach, Ryan Skip Bertman. Sometimes the baseball gods say they're not going to get another hit this half inning. Okay, it's just the way it's going to go. But it went against that a little bit. Go ahead, Hunter.
I was going to say I agree with Ronnie on the broken record sense because not only this year we had that conversation, but it's so similar to the conversation we had 2 years ago in 23 when they won it all. Just we needed 2 more guys to really emerge on the mound, and they didn't until the postseason. And that's the thing a lot of people have to understand. Like you could have all these question marks about this pitching staff, but you guys can't emerge at the right time and propel you over the edge to be able to win another national championship. There's enough pieces on this team for that to be a real possibility. We know that. It's just you don't want to hang your hat on that. I think that what happened in 23 was such a fine line that it had to be almost perfect in a sense for those guys to come in and make that type of effort on the mound. You need it again. And I don't know, that's a difficult task to ask in college baseball after an entire season of play, but it's not past the realm of possibility.
And keep in mind, in 2023, they took 2 out of 3 from Florida for the national championship. Paul Skeens didn't throw 1 pitch in any of those 3 games. So, as Ronnie and you have said, Hunter, step it up. If it didn't happen this weekend at A&M, it'll be better if it happens, later on down the road, even if whether that's Omaha or super regional. You're going to get out of a regional, but super regional or Omaha.
2023, remember Thatcher Hurd's ERA was like a 6.5, 7, something like that until May. And then he went out of the bullpen and had a great performance at Georgia. They went into extra innings. Remember, I say great performance. He gave up 2 home runs to tie it in the 8th or 9th or whatever. And then he pitched for another 4 or 5 innings in the extra innings, and they won that game. So he had a mixed bag there. He blew the save and then had to make up for it. And then Thatcher Hurd kind of turned the corner right there and became a dude for them in the postseason. Ackenhausen had been hurt a little bit and missed the number of weeks in the middle, and then kind of figured it out and became a dude in the postseason, gave him a great performance. Look, LSU, you can look back at all their national championship runs and runs in Omaha, and they're all similar in that there are guys that didn't have great years or guys that were hurt or something like that. You go back all the way to 2000. They just celebrated the 25th anniversary this year, a couple weeks ago. Trey Hodges, the MVP of the College World Series, another guy that, he ended up pitching in the major leagues, so he had great stuff, but he was another guy that had been hurt and wasn't, himself, and then all of a sudden got healthy and was great down the stretch in the postseason. You're going to need some people to emerge. The question is who. Obviously, we think Chase Shores is a leading candidate. He was your 3rd starter, lost his job. But, I mean, come on. The guy's 6'7", throws 97. He's his 3rd year of college, although inexperienced due to injuries. Like, you figure the light bulb's going to come on for him. Rizzi's another guy that the light bulb could come on, 6'9" freshman who's got all the things, but he's a freshman. Ware is a guy who, he's got some back issues. They're limited, but I don't think he can be a starter and give you 5-6 innings, but he's a guy that could be counted on, I think, in that bull. These are all guys that are showing the P word potential to come in there and elevate and give you 2 or 3 extra arms. I know they think Jacob Meyer maybe. He throws hard, 95 to 100, the righty out of Santa Maria from Nichols, but yet I've never seen another pitch out of him really consistently. And the fastball is a coin flip fastball. It's electric because it's 98 up in the zone. But again, still, can you really count on that? And again, it's not about the stuff, Hunter and Tommy. It's about the consistency and being able to know what you're going to get more times than not. And that's the part that LSU's just in this weird black cloud Bermuda Triangle right now.
Well, and kind of lost on all these conversations all over the place. Anthony Ianson was money. He was the dude throwing 94 in the 9th inning. And Jay Johnson said after the game, easy to say this, but say I wasn't taking him out. He was in command of every pitch, and it was a 1-run game, and weren't taking him out. And of course, if he gave up a walk and a home run, it'd have been over. But that performance by Ianson, who has had a time or two when it wasn't working real well a few weeks back, but man, you just got to tip your hat. You win 2-1 on the road at A&M. It starts with Anthony Ianson, Jay Johnson's magic moment thing. That dude was real.
Look, the baseball gods have a way of working themselves out, right? LSU loses the game this week 4-2 in the 8th. Last week they win a game 3-0 in the 9th that they had no business winning. They had no business losing this one. So it really just it balances itself out and works itself out. They are what they should be, 15-9. They're right where they need to be. They're not going to win the SEC championship, but they're in position to do what it takes over the next couple weeks if they just take care of business. Go 4-2. They got a bad South Carolina team. Obviously got a tough series at home this weekend, but 4-2, they're going to be a top 8 national seed, and 3-3 and go win a couple games at the tournament. I think that's enough as well. All right, fellas, I'm going to get back to the beaches of Cancun.
Fun, Ron.
I'm shocked at that. They're pretty good. All right. Appreciate Ronnie for jumping in there. Hunter, one thing real quick. Michigan announced self-imposed suspension of 2 games of head football coach Sharon Moore, all back to that taping thing with the assistant coach or whatever. But they want him to sit out games 3 and 4 because they don't want him to miss week 2 against Oklahoma. But the NCAA still hasn't leveled their penalties. That Michigan thing, Harbaugh knows they broke 6 tons of rules and got caught. Lots of schools break rules. They got caught, okay? You and I both went 90 miles an hour on the interstate, but if we didn't get a ticket, then we didn't get caught, okay? Michigan got caught, and, so, I mean, that's just – I'm not a big fan of Michigan, but we'll see how that thing plays out.
Yeah, no.
All right, Hunter, go ahead.
I was gonna say we'll see how it all turns out, and we talked about it when it first happened with all the allegations and stuff. I still think it's still completely on the table that there will eventually be an asterisk by that national championship. I think
they should strip the title. They won't do that, but I think they should. But anyway, Hunter, we appreciate you jumping in today. Don't forget Court Street Cafe, where I'm at today, 805 Court Street in Port Allen. Connect with them on Facebook and Instagram. Learn about the lunch specials, dinner specials, drink specials, the dinner of the week special. Facebook and Instagram is a great way to keep up with Court Street Cafe. Just a couple of minutes over the Mississippi River Bridge. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, Monday through Saturday. We want you to check them out. Hunter, tell us what's up with WBRZ and all your stuff there.
Yeah, you can check out all my stuff over at WBRZ.com. You can follow me on X for all sports updates at McCann_Hunter. And then, like you said, we'll keep track over at WBRZ of the weather to make sure that LSU can get this game in with Grambling. And, of course, I'll have the update. You can go to WBRZ.com, go to our sports tab. I'll have an article written up tomorrow about the game, and we'll update that and let everybody know when LSU makes a decision, if LSU makes a decision to postpone that game or push back a start time or whatever it may be. We will update you over at WBRZ.com, but you can check all my stuff out there.
All right, Hunter, thanks for your time this morning. You have a wonderful day. And everybody watching, like and share this show, no matter whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or X. That helps things out if you like and share this show. Have a great day. More sports shows daily come Wednesday morning when I'll be over at Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. Have a great day, everyone.